Hey everyone, welcome back to Allcarnews, and you join me here today with one of Mercedes' latest, most advanced new vehicles, the AMG GLC 43. And with this new lineup of GLC as well as C-Class, things have been getting a little controversial. Gone are the V8s and even the 6-cylinders, and even on this GLC 43 now, we have an AMG 4-cylinder engine under the hood. But I honestly think that might make this car a little bit more special than it once was before, because this is a real AMG handcrafted engine now, not the old twin-turbo V6 before, which was a fantastic engine. But this car is really interesting. There's a lot of technology helping you as a driver kind of get that engaging dynamic experience. There's a lot of technology just in general to get used to. And I think stylistically, Mercedes is really doing some great stuff right now. I'm not too sure if this new generation of electrified, smaller, downsized powertrains are really going to be pointing towards what a lot of buyers from previous to these AMG products are looking for. Nonetheless, I still think this is a fantastic new vehicle, and I'm going to take you on a full tour and review of the entire thing and show you all of the really cool features of this all-new AMG GLC 43. Let's go dive in. And so we go to the most, I think, controversial aspect of this all-new GLC 43, and that's what's under the hood. And just quick note here, notice the Falterback AMG logo now on top of the hood. Here's a new thing AMG models are doing. This is, of course, the famous M139 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. And in all fairness, this is a pretty special engine, as it is a true AMG engine in the sense that it is handcrafted. One man, one engine. This is exactly what we're seeing here. There's one person that assembles each engine for this new GLC 43, and that's going for a lot of these new 43 models. And it's a pretty cool engine. It makes around 416 horsepower in this particular application and around 369 pound-feet of torque. It's paired with a really unique F1 derived electric exhaust gas turbocharger, and that's also paired with an integrated starter generator, which is a belt-driven starter generator, and that's going to add around 13 extra horsepower paired with this 48-volt system. And this one does have an AMG Dynamics package, so we're also getting electronically active engine mounts as well as part of the system. We have a fully adaptive AMG style suspension here, so it's a lot stiffer than normal GLC, a lot more chassis bracing as well. And this engine is mounted pretty far back in this engine bay to help keep that center of weight a little bit further back, a little bit more than it normally would be if there was a V6 or V8, for example. We also had, this is paired to that AMG Speed Shift 9-speed multi-clutch gearbox, which we'll get to in our driving impressions. And we also have an AMG enhanced 4-matic all-wheel drive system. So now that torque split's going to be a little bit more rear bias. I think around 60% rear, around 30 to 40-ish% front, depending on that ratio there. So you're getting a lot more of a sporty and driving dynamics with this new GLC 43. And there's a lot of electronic technological aids and electric boosting aids on this engine and this whole powertrain to really give you all that power and boost, really low end, kind of fill in any sort of turbo lag. I don't really notice it at all on this vehicle. And I also want to mention we have rear wheel steering as well. It's around 2.5 degrees of rear wheel steering just to help with some cornering capabilities. So there's a lot going on here, which may make some people a little bit worried about long-term reliability and longevity, which we cannot really attest to as of just yet because this is a brand new vehicle. And yes, this engine's been around for a while, but in this new fully electrified application, it's still a relatively new option. So curious to see how that goes down the road, but so far so good. I think this is a pretty unique engine, and I think this makes this GLC 43 a little bit more special than it did before. Now, of course, we have to talk about the styling because that is a huge aspect to this kind of mild mid-performance class of compact luxury SUVs these days. And the new GLC design is honestly quite nice. I haven't been the biggest fan of some of Mercedes' recent design choices here, but I actually quite like the GLC's design for this generation. It's sleeker, a little more muscular, even though it's more, I would say a little more rounded out than it was before, but I think it's working really, really great here in this incredible Cirrus Silver Magno paint job over here. It's a matte metallic paint job. It's around a $3,000 option, which isn't too bad actually, because I think it's a gorgeous paint finish. We also do have the incredible Mercedes digital light system. This is a really fantastic light system. We have this nice LED signature here, and the actual beams themselves project really cool welcome animations that you can customize and change, and it does a little nice light show for you when you turn on and off the vehicle. And I have to say, this AMG package on here looks fantastic. I always have a love-hate relationship with how AMG and Mercedes have integrated this Pan-American grille design style, but I think it works really well here. They have this really nice swooping hood line. Again, we kind of noticed the AMG badge now, the crest on the top of the grille versus the Mercedes badge. And we have a nice bumper treatment over here, aggressive lower bumper area, really nice different designs and patterns going on. And you have to remember, this is not a vehicle with the AMG Night package. So it doesn't have that dark blacked out package that you can also additionally add and optionally get on here, which I think would give it a little bit more of an aggressive tone, but I think this is a nice classy look for this GLC 43 AMG. Now coming over to the side of the GLC 43, again, we can see this turbo electrified badge over here. That's going to indicate that we have this particular electrified turbocharged powertrain, which is, again, it's in a lot of vehicles from this, even the SL 43 as well. So that's pretty cool. But nonetheless, since we have the AMG Dynamics package, we're getting red brake calipers, as well as we have the option of getting these really cool 20-inch wheels, which has this really interesting kind of aero style pattern in between them. I actually quite like how these look. I think it's a really unique wheel. As I've been driving it the whole week with winter tires, it actually is quite good. These Michelin Pilot Alpine tires are actually quite nice. I think they handle really well. They don't really feel like a winter tire or sound like a winter tire on the road, but I'd really be curious to drive this with the optional high performance tire, a little more of a summer road focused tire, which I think would really kind of bring out the handling expertise of this updated new GLC 43. Now coming around to the rear end of this all new GLC 43, we can see a lot more of that AMG design element. You can already notice the vehicle sits quite low to the ground, and because of that, we don't have privacy glass in this vehicle. I think that's just how it's working on this particular package, but that would be one of the first things I do as if I was buying this vehicle, is add some privacy glass for our rear and side rear passenger as glasses. Up here we have this really nice body colored integrated spoiler, which I think looks really aggressive. Coming down to the lower area over here, we have the circular quad exhaust tips, which is an indicator of the mid-tier AMG models, so the 43s and the 53s of the like. If you want those kind of rectangular ones, you're going to have to go for one of the 63 models, which gets this engine plus a plug-in hybrid powertrain, so lots of power there. We have this sleek faux light bar style design back here, which blends into these very GLE and GLS-esque rear taillights, which I think are quite nice. Nothing too extreme, very subtle, which is in line with Mercedes' design, but this AMG one amps it up just a little bit up front, which I think I quite like. Subtle badging going on back here, and again, we don't have the AMG Night packages or any additional upgraded aggressive body packages, so you can get even more, even though this vehicle is around $77,000 as tested. But I really like the stance and the look of this car. I think it's quite nice, and you're still getting the practicality, as this is a GLC at the end of the day. So we have a full power rear tailgate back here. Opens up pretty tall and wide, and this one does come with optional rear cargo cover over there. Opening up into the space, it's a decent amount of cargo room, nothing too crazy. It's in like the 20 cubic feet space around there. If you go for the GLC Coupe, you're going to cut that space just a little bit down, but headroom generally will quite be around the same. We do have these nice metal scuff plates back here, nice Mercedes carpeted floor mat, and underneath this floor panel over here is going to unveil way more cargo space actually. So there's no spare on this vehicle, so you can kind of shove some more things back there, which is quite nice. But we do have a fix-a-flat kit, as well as some Mercedes provided storage cubbies if you want to kind of put some things in there, some groceries, and have it organized in the rear of your vehicle, which is quite nice. We do have power assisted releases to kind of fold the seats down on the second row, but you're gonna have to put those back up manually, which I think is totally fine for this class of vehicle. But otherwise, not too bad in terms of space. I think the all new BMW X3, which is a little bit larger, might give you a little bit more room, but this is pretty typical what you're going to find in this class. Okay guys, let's go take a tour of the interior of the AMG GLC 43. We have our key fob right here, which has AMG on it, which is pretty nice. And let's unlock the vehicle. We do have keyless access on all 4 doors, which is a nice touch there. So I can just walk up to the door and you can lock and unlock it from even this rear door, which is quite nice. Opening up the doors, nice solid door thunk as well. And I like how this matte paint is true matte paint, and it goes all the way on the inside of the body. So no fake wraps going on here, guys. On the back of the door panels here, so we have pretty nice material choices going on back here. This MB material all over the sides over here. We have a really gorgeous design over here for our Burmester speakers, which this is coming with our Pinnacle package. We have a 3D Burmester sound system there. You can even see some of the ambient lighting, which is all over this interior of this vehicle. Back here, really nice aggressive seats here. This is not the most aggressive seats you can get, but we have this kind of micro suede style material with the MB text around it. Really nice style, especially with these red seat belts as well. But let's hop inside. Close the door up. Nice solid thunk there. And here we are in the back of the all-new Mercedes GLC 43. Seat room and leg room, how is it? So It's definitely a little more cramped feeling than I was expecting. I am sitting behind myself. I could definitely sit a little bit closer, but it isn't the most amount of space, but I have plenty of foot space, I think, to feel comfortable. Same thing goes with knee room. I would say my leg room is a little bit more cramped if you have a taller front driver or passenger sitting up there. We do have storage cubbies in the back of both seats, which is a nice touch, as well as our own air vents back here, which have a really satisfying click to them when you kind of move them in and out of place, which is quite nice. Though this one is missing the rear seat option, heated seat option, so that's a little bit disappointing. And I don't seem to see any sort of climate controls back here, which I believe the all-new BMW X3 can get, which is a nice touch. We do have a hump in the floor back here because this is a rear-wheel drive based vehicle, so you're going to lose a little bit more of some center seat legroom if you do have to have 3 passengers back here, but otherwise I think it's not too bad. Again, the design of the door panels and all the materials in here is really quite nice. The same thing goes with these seats. I think they're very comfortable. This center padded area is really well sculpted. I think decent amount of thigh support back here as well, which is a nice touch. And of course you have adjustable headrests as well. Folding down this little center armrest area over here reveals 2 cup holders, I believe, if you press this twice, so you have a nice cup holder space back here. And I think this is a space where you can just like shove your phones in as well if you want to have them stored there. Pretty cool design, really like that. I believe these seats could they don't recline, actually. That's pretty interesting. So no reclining seats on this GLC, but we do have folding second row seats if you want to have some more for your cargo space. And the other big thing about this interior is that we have a nice massive panoramic glass roof to really help this cabin feel nice, open and airy. And I would say I have about this much headroom as well, so definitely a decent amount of headroom, so I'm not going to really be worrying about that. But if you go for the coupe, you might have a little bit less headroom for these second row passengers. We have LED lights in this interior as well, really nicely integrated, I think, in here, so that's a nice touch. But let's go take a look at the front end of this cabin. Okay guys, let's go hop in the front end now of this GLC 43, because this cockpit is something truly wild of a space. So again, same nice treatment we're finding on our door panels over here. Really interesting design Mercedes is doing on their new door panels here. It has this floating piece over here that has all of your window controls on there. Really nice feeling window controls as well. And we have this interesting kind of haptic touch panel here for your side mirror controls as well. But let's go hop inside. But also glowing AMG side sill plate, which is a really nice touch. We have aluminum pedals as well, AMG floor mats, and again, those really nice seats here, but we can even upgrade those even further if you do choose to go for that option. Again, nice solid door thunk, and here we are inside of the GLC 43. Let's start it up. This is pretty much an interior you can get in a regular GLC as well. It looks identical. This just has a little bit more of those AMG bits all over the pieces here to make it feel a little more special. Like I said, this is the pinnacle package, so we're getting some really nice things off the bat, such as this massive heads-up display cut out there for our heads-up display. We're getting augmented reality navigation. We're getting the Burmester 3D sound system, but we're missing out on a major package, and that is actually the driver assistance package. So that means we get no lane keep assist. A lot of things are actually missing in here. No full adaptive cruise control, and you know, for around almost $80,000, yes, it's almost a near $2,000 option, but I think it's an essential one to have on pretty much a lot of all these new vehicles these days, including this one as well. So I would like to have seen that one option on this particular test car to test it out for you guys. But otherwise, this is a really nice place to be. This is the best built Mercedes interior I think I have been in recently, which is a good thing to say. Really like the steering wheel here. This is an option. You can get a full leather steering wheel if you don't want this kind of micro suede material, as well as the kind of blended stitching with nice red stitching around it. As you can see, this does get matted over time, this kind of micro suede Alcantara material, so that's why a lot of people don't particularly choose it, but it definitely feels special in the hand. We have these nice huge metal paddle shifters which feel really incredible to use. They do get hot in the sun, so keep in mind that. We have our traditional Mercedes stalks up here for our wiper, headlight, as well as our shifter control, which is a nice touch. And since this is the newer style AMG wheel, we have these cool dials down here. So we have all of our different drive modes, from comfort, snow to individual mode, as well as our sport plus, race, and we can even get into the master dynamics mode as well, where we turn off traction control, put it in full manual mode. it definitely gets a little crazy in these higher modes over here, but I like to put it in individual. I configured it to full reduced drive. This is where I can get the squeeze the most amount of efficiency out of this vehicle. Everything kind of haptic touch, so even from the steering wheel controls to kind of change our gauge cluster view to one of our many views, even our heads-up display can be changed to quite a few different views as well, so you have a lot of different customizable options there. And this over here controls our center infotainment system, so if you want to kind of use this to kind of control that versus touching it, that is your only other option. But otherwise, it's a pure touch-based interface, and we definitely need to talk about this because it's the hub of your vehicle. Everything now is baked into the screen. We have this entry-level style gloss black plastic. Thankfully, you can option to get out of this, which I 100% would, because it's the only part of this interior that does not feel expensive at all. And another big area over here that I think needs to be improved is the center console space. Now, I mentioned this on the new E-Class that we just had, but this is just not a well-designed center console. These cup holders do not work well. If you have two big style drinks here, they just don't really fit, because I think this needs to either open up a little bit more or just this general space needs to be a little bit wider. And same thing goes with the wireless charger. It's just really difficult to put your phone in and out of there, which I guess is a good thing. On the road, you don't want to be using your phone, but just even getting out of the car. Thankfully, it reminds you actually when you get out of the car, because I honestly would forget it's so tucked in there. But there's a really cool Mercedes star pattern on this wireless charging mat. We have a USB-C port in there. You can close this cup holder up as well to kind of increase a little bit more cargo space if we need it in here, but that's about it. Thankfully, we do have a center console area over here, which opens in the typical fan style. We have a little storage cubby up here, two more USB-C ports, and this does open up a little bit more to kind of reveal some more space in there. But thankfully, that is a deeper and easier to access than this particular one. And of course, locking glove box for some more space, which this has a nice felt lined interior component to it. Now, this screen over here. So we have a fingerprint reader on here, so you can actually fingerprint configure a whole bunch of different fingerprints for different driver profiles, which is pretty cool. So we have some hard access buttons. So of course we have our emergency lights right there to turn on our flashers. We have a power on and off switch, volume knob to mute and unmute, as well as a scroll wheel here for our volume, which you can press as well, but I think it honestly works better as this haptic touch wheel. You know, again, I wish it was a knob, but this is what we're getting now on new AMG products. We have a quick access button here for some quick vehicle controls here, so we can turn on and off our heads-up display. You can see some of these cool settings here, including snow chain mode. So this will actually decrease and deactivate the rear wheel steering. So if you do need to put snow chains on your vehicle, you're going to want to put that on there so you don't mess up your tires and differentials and stuff. We also have some hard buttons for our camera system, so we can unlock our 360-degree view camera system pretty easily on here. Really amazing camera quality on here. Really, really like what AMG and Mercedes are doing here. You can even save some points, but this isn't only the only vehicle with the best cameras, but they're definitely up there. We have parking assistance as well. Really great parking assistance system. It does a lot of the work for you if you don't want to get into a tricky spot. We have also a hard button for our drive modes, which you can also access from this button over here, as well as within the infotainment system. So you have some customizability, not a lot with these buttons, but it's nice to have some hard buttons still left. Otherwise, our climate screen always will stay down here, which is, I guess, sort of nice. We can unlock the full climate menu, which kind of unveils a little bit more stuff. We do have a hard button for our heated seats, which you can also pair to turn on your heated steering wheel as well, which is a nice touch. And all of our seat controls are on these interesting new like haptic style buttons over here for our seats. So these whole things actually don't move. They're kind of like touch points over here, so it's interesting, but I actually like that we still have a nice big physical control up here and how the style Mercedes does it, because fiddling all that stuff down there can be a little bit confusing sometimes. Otherwise, the screen is angled very aggressively towards the driver. As you can see from the passenger seat, you can see it's tilted there towards the driver. It also has this kind of matte style texture around it. It has a nice metal lining around it as well. And again, the materials and qualities in here are quite nice. We have this optional carbon fiber trim in here, which looks gorgeous. Loads of stitching up here on the dash. I really like this air vents design. You can see the ambient lighting is reflecting through there. Really nice feel and quality and snap to them. I think that's a nice touch there. We even got an IWC kind of digital watch on here if you want to record sometimes, which is a little bit gimmicky, but again, I think that's all the point of these new screens now. You got to add a lot of these unique features here to really help it stand out against competitors. Now, since this does have the Pinnacle package, we're getting some off-road style displays as well, which I would not be taking this vehicle in any sort of off-road setting. And again, the best part about this interior is just all of the ambient light options in here. One of my favorites and the brightest is ultramarine. As you can see, it really fills up this cabin. And one other thing I actually wanted to point out here is this cool little heritage anniversary package design we have on this one. Throughout this entire infotainment management system. You can turn that on and off, but there's these little graphical goodies, they call them, in here that kind of fill out through a whole bunch of different menus. So I think it's a fun little touch. I honestly can't remember the last menu I found one in, but this one is one little touch right there that it shows it. Really, really interesting interior. Visually, it looks gorgeous, and I have to say, this one is definitely better built than some of the EQ products that I actually have sat in. I feel it's a little bit more solid. But let's go take this thing out on a drive and see how this new AMG GLC 43 handles on the road. And there is a little bit of some pumped in engine sound, but I've listened to this thing from the outside and I can confirm that it actually sounds really, really good. So there is some still real noise going on here, which I quite like. And the other best part about this engine and Mercedes' latest engineering efforts is that, like some other German vehicles like a BMW, it has a 48-volt system, and it can just shut off when you're coming to a stop really quickly, or even just on the highway and you're coasting in the efficient drive modes. And what that's going to do is, of course, help to improve MPG, though shockingly, this doesn't have the best MPG. So a direct competitor to this would be the BMW X3 M50, the latest one, and that does happen to have the B58 engine, which I think I would still prefer over this car. We're in eco mode essentially now, and it's still making those crazy sounds, but I don't know, this is a pretty good engine for this vehicle. It really helps to set it apart, I think, from a lot of the competition, and I think a lot of people maybe initially turned away from it being a 4-cylinder, but you have to remember, this is not just a simple 4-cylinder. It has over 400 horsepower, this vehicle, paired with this 48-volt mild hybrid system. And I think this newer generation GLC is a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more put together than the last generation AMG one, and you're getting quite a lot of interesting stuff standard on this car, such as rear wheel steering, adaptive dampering, so it's going to really help to make this chassis more dynamic than it was before. Thankfully, it's not an aggressive amount of rear wheel steering. It's more of to help this thing going through corners and be a little bit more sharper. Now, of course, we have this 9-speed automatic gearbox here, which is AMG tuned, and it's sending a lot more power to the rear wheels in this one. And I have to say, it kind of shifts very aggressively when you put it in the more aggressive drive modes. Really, really feel it in the entire car. It almost feels like a dual clutch. You get really wild upshift crackles and pops on this engine and exhaust system here. Really, really fun sounds, actually, so I quite like that. It is enjoyable, and you have a button here. You can actually put it into quiet mode regardless of what drive mode you're in. So if it's being too loud for you, you can tone it down just a little bit. But you know, I honestly wasn't expecting that going into this being a 4-cylinder vehicle, that it's gonna have a really wild exhaust system that honestly sounds better than some vehicles that have 6 cylinders these days, with so much of some silencing going on there. So that was a nice, pleasant surprise to me. And again, you can just switch it into being a more efficient vehicle, and it kind of coasts along. It's quiet. Ride is pretty nice, though it definitely is on the stiffer side around the entire ballpark here. Whatever, regardless mode you're in, it's definitely going to be on the stiffer side of it. So you might just want to go for a regular GLC instead of going for this 43 AMG one. And of course, there's the 63, which will just get even more stiffer and more aggressive, which is essentially this engine plus a plug-in hybrid powertrain. And I think one of the other most fun aspects of this car is, again, with those kind of multiple personalities I think it can have, is when you do get on it a little bit, it does kind of reward you. It has some really aggressive shifts and pops, bangs. It's a very theatrical experience, especially if you're doing something like a race start mode, which, oh my gosh, that's an event in itself. Really great response from this 9-speed automatic. Now, it is a multi-clutch unit, so it's not a traditional full torque converter style automatic gearbox, but it can be tuned in a way through these different drive modes to feel almost like a dual clutch style gearbox with those really big kickbacks between those gear shifts, and I really like that theatrical experience. Now, out here on the highway, again, pretty quiet, and this is where we can kind of see that efficiency come into action here. So the engine's actually off right now. We have a little sailboat icon right there, and it's just completely coasting. And thanks to that 48-volt belt start generator, the second I put my foot on the gas, it comes right back to life and just gets going for you pretty quickly. You don't even really notice the engine turn on or turn off, which is pretty impressive. You know, normally I would do a test out here on the highways to kind of demonstrate the adaptive cruise control systems, but this one doesn't really have any of that. So we're not really going to go through that. I think AMG and Mercedes wanted all of the journalists driving this particular press car to really drive the car and not just kind of focus so much on the amazing tech they can have, but really focus on all the engineering stuff they put into this new GLC 43 to kind of make it more unique and stand out across from the segment, which I think they have done a pretty good job at. Even at higher speeds out here on the highway, very stable, really quiet. There's just a little bit of some wind rushing sound around us, but I think overall it's doing a pretty good job. This one's also riding on more winter-focused tire, which I'm not too sure why they gave it that to me already like this. It's only October here, so we don't really need any sort of winter tires quite yet. It doesn't really snow until January, but it's doing it pretty nice. I'd really be nice to see this vehicle and drive it on some more summer tires instead of these, but hopefully we'll get a different experience, maybe with the GLC 63 later in the spring of next year. And you guys, this is the GLC 43 AMG. You know, it has good sharp turn in. I think it manages the weight of being an SUV pretty well. Fun gearbox, pretty peppy and surprisingly good engine. I think it's generally overall a well-rounded car. Yes, it's definitely more on the expensive side of the vehicles in this segment, especially compared to something like an SQ6 or the new X3 M50, which, yes, they are getting up in this price range now, but you also are getting more cylinders. I think a little bit more of a more traditional, enjoyable experience. This is definitely a very tech-forward, high-tech cabin and experience space and powertrain, and you know that also is something you're gonna have to remember in terms of service costs and maintenance and long-term reliability. I mean, I think generally these handcrafted engines have been doing okay and well in GLA 45s. It's been around for a while now, but this is a large vehicle. It's pushing out quite a bit of power now, so I don't know. We'll see how that handles itself out long term. But overall, I think I've been generally quite impressed with this vehicle over the course of this week. It changed my own opinion going into it, and then now having to be able to drive it over the course of this week. I like it. It's unique. It stands out. The steering wheel, like I said, alone just feels special with this Alcantara leather blend. Steering itself, you know, it's a little bit numb and it's feeling wise. It's pretty good in terms of actual steering precision, but I'd like a little more feel baked into this. It feels a little bit over boosted in some scenarios. Suspension I think is quite good, definitely on the stiffer side as well, but the damper range throughout the drive modes definitely is a welcome thing to experience. I'm just you know, it's typical with a lot of these German manufacturers. They do kind of nickel and dime you for quite a lot of features, such as lane departure warning and full radar adaptive cruise controls and all that stuff at around almost $80,000. It should just come standard with it at that point, but that does leave room for other options for a lot of other buyers to kind of pick and choose what they want. And of course, you know, some of the competition now is a little bit bigger than the GLC, so you may want to think about cargo space, and do you need to upgrade to a GLE maybe, or, you know, switch to a competitor, go to an X5. There's a lot of things to kind of consider, so I think this vehicle, yes, it definitely does stand out against the pack with its unique kind of Mercedes persona it's put on it. It's aggressive, but not as super aggressive. It's like this performance luxury that AMG is doing well. They're baking in a little bit more of that aggressive experience into it with things like that race start experience, a lot of the drive modes, and all of the crazy graphics and screens, but it's still at the end of the day more comfortable cruising vehicle than per se some of the other competition, which has a little more of a sportier edge to it. This one tries, I think, to make up for it with that, like, you know, those aggressive transmission shifts, but the things like the brake pedal, for example, I think could work a little bit more on that feel. Same thing with the steering in its sense, and you know, again, at the end of the day, it's a Mercedes, and luxury still is a high first parameter here, and it does that aspect and all that stuff very well. Like, we even have seat kinetics in here, which is quite nice. So get a little bit more of a, not a full massage experience, but a relaxing, comfortable experience in here for you. Nonetheless, guys, this is the all-new GLC 43 AMG. Definitely check out for more videos coming soon on Allcarnews, and as always, thank you guys for joining. Cheers.